Okay, so now we're going to take a look at flukes, and this is one of the more difficult things to work with. It's often mistaken for white spot, but it's very different. With white spot, the spots come and go. Check out our video on that for more details on that. With flukes, the spots stay all the time. Now, you'll often find that the spots are worse in the morning and get better throughout the day, or vice versa. The fish look quite good in the morning, awful in the afternoon, awful in the morning, quite good in the afternoon. It varies depending on the strain of flukes that you've got. There's basically two types of flukes: the very, very small ones which spread through the water, and the very large ones which spread through division. Now the good news is, if you've got the very small ones, this is not as big a problem as it first may appear. Small types of flukes generally do not kill fish very easily at all. Although they can spread reasonably quickly to your other fish, it's unlikely that you'll get too many casualties, or even any at all, before you can do something about it. Small flukes are easily eradicated. Even things like ozone can wipe them out, and most off-the-shelf medications will take out free-swimming flukes fairly easily. Even hydrogen peroxide, or so-called reef-safe cures, will often either eliminate them or knock them right back. Now, with the small flukes, the fish will look very awful, but actually it doesn't do that terrible amount of harm to them. Flukes are relatively small, they provide very little strain on the fish's system, and they don't do too much to damage the fish's body. You will find that often with flukes the fish look slightly foggy or misty, where they're producing extra mucus to shed the flukes, which can actually be a little bit of a problem, because what can happen with that is that it can actually protect the flukes from the medication a little bit. Be very careful with flukes not to put the fish into hyposalinity, because in hyposalinity the flukes multiply much faster than they do at normal salinity levels. If you have the second type of flukes, these are much larger, then you have a much bigger problem. With the larger types of flukes, they multiply on the surface of the fish and they split by division. So each fluke gets quite large, in some cases up to ½ an inch or an inch long, and will split into two flukes as it gets bigger. Now, these can multiply quite quickly. Every few hours they can divide, so it can become very bad very quickly. The good news is the flukes won't voluntarily leave the fish to attach to another fish. The only way they do it is if the fish is in close body contact for an extended period, such as several fish sleep in the same hole together. So with the larger version of flukes, sometimes if you're quick enough and just pull out the one infected fish, you won't need to medicate the rest of the system. The bad news is that these large flukes produce an enormous amount of strain on the fish. They take an enormous amount of fluids out of the fish, and you'll see that the fish, although it eats heavily, will appear to lose weight. It's not actually losing body mass. What is happening there is it's becoming dehydrated. And if you look closely at the skull, you'll see that the skin looks pinched tight over the major muscle blocks. You'll be able to see that the fish looks quite lumpy in appearance in severe cases, where the skin is pulled tight over the muscle due to massive dehydration in the fish. It's very important that you keep the fish at normal salinity levels, because at lower salinity the flukes multiply even faster. Large flukes can be very difficult to eliminate. They're very large, they don't soak up medication easily, they protect upon the mucus of the fish as well. Often, sadly, the best case with large flukes is to euthanize the one fish in question, but that is understandably quite hard to do. If you've got the time and the space to treat it in a separate quarantine tank, you can do so. But bear in mind, the treatment often takes up to 2 months to fully eliminate it, and the mortality rate, even with medications, is often 90% anyway. And in a lot of cases, this just means that the fish suffers for a longer period, sadly. So with large flukes, it's very important that you get that fish out as soon as it's infected. Get it out as fast as you can into quarantine before it can infect anything else, and do what you can for it to try and remove the flukes one way or another. There's a wide range of medications you can use to try and do something about it. In the end, chances are you are going to lose the fish, sadly. Make sure you check out our other videos on diagnosing fish diseases and quarantines.